Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Here we are, rolling along, back and better than ever, presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests like Joe Girardi and Paul Finebaum coming up on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Another reminder, there are some stories you have to hear to believe. Season 2 of the acclaimed 30 for 30 podcast series now available on the ESPN app and Apple Podcast. Listen today.
And for those that are maybe just tuning in or those just listen on the radio, I do have the turnover chain on. Yeah. That was one of the 3 bets I had. Jim Kelly has already been sent and paid off on his 6 ribeyes. We'll have Stu Gatz on tomorrow to talk about that little thing. And
meaning his butt?
Well, just that whole thing.
Sure.
And then Jeff Fiegels, former teammate of mine in Philly, went to the U. His kid punched for the U right now. If Notre Dame won, he would have had to buy me $100 worth of donuts. How awesome would that have been? But it didn't happen.
But it lasted you a good day and a half.
Exactly right. He sent me up a turnover chain that I'm wearing throughout the show, so I do have that on. Obviously, the picture's up all over social media, and people ask me why I'm not smiling. Why the hell do you think I'm not smiling? I don't want to be wearing this cheap costume jewelry. Someone said, you should have had the U send you up. It's real. You know, you think they're going to send that to me? They're not going to send that to me. I'm wearing this cheap costume jewelry instead. I think this U and the U is made, it's styrofoam. Just paint. I could basically snap it, which is something I may do in the shows.
I'm not going to lie to you. The picture that we have up on the Mike and Mike page on Twitter is excellent.
It is.
They captured it perfectly. You have exactly the right frown on your face, and the U and everything is perfect. I'm going to sneeze.
Yeah. I put the U up, the hand signal. I'm only doing that once. It was captured on film. And
it was perfect.
It
could not have been done more perfectly.
Whatever.
Let me read you a few tweets. A lot of people do agree with me on the issue that the fact that the UCLA kids got in trouble where they got in trouble and the circumstances of it should change the dynamic of what happens to them. Trevor tweets at us, the fact that the president had to get involved is reason for more punishment. Reality is they're lucky to be back in the USA. Luna tweets, I agree, it's simply different. The fact that the laws are different already changes the dynamic. Marvin is on your side saying punishment should be the same no matter where. And Casey tweets, I agree with Greeny. It should be worse for happening in China. It's more of a crime there than here. It isn't actually, that isn't even the reason.
Right.
That isn't even my reasoning. I feel that I don't know. We've gone over this and over this, but I feel like when you're there, you are representing something larger than yourself in a larger way than usual.
You're always doing that when you're part of a college or and traveling. It gets extended when you go overseas. Now you're representing the country as well. I get all that. So we'll see. We'll find out. It was just a question I threw out of if you would discipline more, but the question still is going to remain. What will be the discipline? You know,
what would you, if knowing what you know, and again, there's so many things we don't know.
I think the absolute.
What would you do?
The absolute most that will happen, the farthest it would go, is they would be suspended for the year. They wouldn't play the entire season.
I agree that would be the maximum.
I think that would be the max. I can't imagine. I would be stunned if it were under double-digit games. So that would be my guess is double-digit games.
Like 10-ish.
That's double-digit.
Their 11th game is Kentucky,
right.
And then their 12th game starts their Pac-12 schedule.
And no matter what, somebody will have a problem with it. No matter what it is. If it's 10 games, they say should have been out the year. If it's a year, someone said they should be kicked off the team for good and scholarship revoked. And so if it's a year, some will say it should only be 10 games. If it's 10 games, some may only say it should be 5 games. It'll never be perfect. That's why he just has to do – that's why I asked Coach K about his philosophy. And as he said, he even seeks counsel of others. So is that what Alford will do? Talk to others involved and see where you want to go with this thing. And then you got to do what you feel then is right to do and not worry about the public chatter.
Yeah, I agree with that. We've arrived at a place now.
It'd be easier said than done.
Yes, but we have arrived at a place now, unlike where we were 18 years ago, we have arrived at a place now where there isn't practically anything anyone can do that there isn't going to be criticism. Mm-hmm. So I do believe that the best response to that is just doing what you think is right and letting the chips fall where they may. And there are extenuating circumstances in this that we're not aware of, which is, what do the players tell you? What exactly happened?
Right.
How contrite are they? I mean, there are all these things that go into the mix that we don't know anything about. Mm-hmm. But I think my inclination would be to say, I would not take their scholarships away. I would not throw them out of school, but they wouldn't be playing for a while, if I were the one making this decision. Keep tweeting us through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Show her how thankful you are this holiday season with beautiful bouquets from 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now you can get 24 multicolored roses for just $24. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. All right, I wanted to get in. We have not even mentioned the Jerry Jones stuff from yesterday. So his comments that were widely distributed took place on radio, and we don't have the rights to air them. So we can't. But I will tell you, in essence, what he said was, look, we are 60% of the way through Roger Goodell's current contract.
Right.
Why are we in such a rush to extend it? It's not as though the collective bargaining agreement negotiations are beginning next week.
Right.
Now, there's stuff always ongoing there, but generally speaking, the collective bargaining agreement still has 4 years left to run. Roger still has 18 months left on his contract. Why are we in such a rush to get this done? It's a legitimate question.
Yeah, sure it is.
It's one that could have been asked, I suppose, in the spring.
Could have been asked.
And the owners apparently unanimously decided that they were going to get it done now.
That's exactly. The only thing that's changed since, well, I guess I shouldn't say the only thing. The league has gone through certainly all the things with the protests and things like that, not just Zeke Elliott getting suspended and then not suspended and then suspended, then not, and then suspended again. There have been other things.
They've had a terrible year.
Yes, they have.
I mean, by any standard.
Forgetting years.
They've had a terrible year.
Since May when we're talking about that going on.
Bad
Some
things
other
have
things have happened, yes.
Undoubtedly. So does that change your perspective? If so, then that's not necessarily something Jerry has to tell the world.
It would.
But I assume it's something he's telling the other owners. Guys, we need to rethink this.
Forgetting where we are now, if the owners just came out, maybe from this committee, without all of this hullabaloo that went on and just said, you know what? We're part of the compensation committee. We're going to start looking into this, but we're going to take a step back. A lot's gone on since we've done this. We have time, so we're just going to kind of take it a little slower. I don't think anybody would have said anything, right? But see, to me, now it gets into that measuring contest of, wait a minute. You're an owner and you're trying to serve papers to us and tell us what to do? Well, how about we do a cease and desist on you? Well, how about I do this to you? So now the parameters just change. So now it's not where commonsensically it may have been, you know what? Let's take a step back. Let's just hold off for a minute with everything that's going on. Let's things settle down. Let's see how it all gets handled, settle down. Then we'll revisit this. But I think the dynamics have changed to ain't no way that us six here in this committee are letting this owner threaten us with legal papers and tell us, hey, we can't do what we all agreed to do a few months ago. So that's where I think it's what it's turned into.
As I'm thinking this through, also, I do see one reason to get it done, an extension done sooner, which is a person in Roger Goodell's position, you want them thinking long term, right? You want them thinking about making long-range planning and what is in the best long-term interest of the enterprise. And if he is going, let's just say he only had a year left on his
going
deal,
into last year,
he might be inclined. Again, I'm not suggesting he would, but you can see a scenario where someone is inclined to do whatever it takes in the short term to make things look good.
To get
to get your deal done. In the same way that we sometimes say a lame duck coach is not a good thing to have for your organization because he's not thinking about the best long term.
Let's develop these young guys.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Right.
It's a variation on the same theme that you have here with Goodell. So it's sort of an interesting concept. We had Mark Cuban on in this hour yesterday talking a little bit about this dynamic because he went through this.
Right.
Mark Cuban, when he was first came into the NBA, David Stern fined him. It felt like every other day.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, every other day, Mark Cuban was getting fined, and it wound up being millions of dollars over the course of time. And so I asked him a little bit about that dynamic between an owner and the commissioner, and here was a little bit of what Mark Cuban had to say.
On one hand, the commissioner is supposed to be a buffer because you've got 30 in the NBA and 32 owners that you've got a buffer as they compete against each other, buffer with the bigger picture because not your business interest as an individual team or as an individual might not always align with the league. That's the business side. On the competitive side, we all know as owners that, it takes some luck and it takes some happenstance to be at the top of the league. And you know that you have guys are going to age out, guys are going to get hurt. So you have this point in time, particularly in football where guys get hurt more often, where you've got to take advantage of the opportunity. It doesn't last forever. And that's what puts them at head-to-head. Because Jerry's got to take advantage of this moment of time. He's got to fight for it no matter what. And I think all the fans respect and recognize that that's the case. And, you know, the NFL, and Roger on the other side is trying to manage the NFL brand.
So that's a little bit of Mark Cuban from yesterday.
Mean, you know, I'm very fascinated on where this will go and how I think the dynamics have changed of how it may have made sense to hold off. But to your point, I get it. You want to have that security long-term to make some plans. I still think it's getting done. I still think it's getting done sooner rather than later. And I do think what pushed it along was Jerry Jones, you know, making some would say a hissy fit about this thing, stamping his feet and saying, hold on, let's wait on this. I think he ticked off most of those people, if not all of them, on the committee, especially Arthur Blank, who are saying, we're asserting the control that we have on this committee, and we're going to extend Roger Goodell the contract.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how that goes, and if he does get the contract extension, which remains widely expected that he will. How does that dynamic between one of the most powerful owners, one of the most powerful people in all of sports, a Hall of Famer in Jerry Jones, how does that dynamic between those two guys wind up impacting everything?
Yep.
It will be interesting to follow. Okay, we're Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Changing topics completely, it is our pleasure to welcome one of our favorite guests, someone that we got to know a little bit during the many years that we've been doing this show and the many years that he was managing the New York Yankees. Four-time World Series champion Joe Girardi is back with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line one last time before we wrap this thing up at the end of this week. Good morning, Joe Girardi.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Doing well.
We're doing really well, but more significantly, the question is, how are you doing? It was obviously a tumultuous, fascinating, dramatic last couple of weeks that you had as the manager of the Yankees, and then it came to an abrupt end. So I guess I would start it by asking, now that you've had a little time and a little space, where are you mentally and emotionally as far as how everything turned out?
You know, I'm doing well. I mean, this is normal for me. You know, I'm spending a ton of time with my wife and my children, and, you know, getting a chance to be involved in their sports, which is always exciting for me, and I love it. So, I mean, I'm in a good spot. You know, I understand that, you know, when you take a job as the manager, the chances of you spending 10 years in one city is probably not real good. So from that standpoint, I feel really fortunate. I got a chance to raise my children there. There's still a little bit more raising to go, but they had a great 10 years.
As far as, you know, there was speculation all over that were the Yankees going to want you back? Were you going to want to be back? Was one as well? Where was that side of it as far as you wanting to be in New York?
Oh, I wanted to come back, and I think sometimes people really question when I say, you know, I have to talk to my family first, because here's the way I look at it, and I always tell my players. Things need to be right at home before you come to work. So make sure they're right at home so when you come into work, your mind is clear. Well, I always talk to my family members first to make sure they're on board. And it took very little time. You know, we talked about it for about 12 seconds, and everyone was on board, and they wanted to do it. Because if it's too much for one of my children or if it's too much for my wife, it's going to make my job harder, and I can't give the time that I need to give to the organization and to the players. They were all on board. They were excited to come back, and we were planning on going back.
And so then the explanation that seems to have been given, if we could paraphrase it all, was that there was concern about your relationships with the players. From where you sat, how did you feel your relationships were within that clubhouse, and how did you feel the clubhouse dynamic was this past season with all those young players?
Well, I thought the clubhouse dynamic was good. And any time you're a manager or you're running something like a clubhouse where there's going to be 35 to 40 players that come through a clubhouse during the course of the year, there are times that not everyone's going to be happy with their role. I get that. I've been there. I've wanted to play more. And I have to make decisions sometimes that some players aren't necessarily going to like. But the communication was there, and I thought, you know, it was a great clubhouse. You know, I let the players run the clubhouse. I think that's the best run clubhouse, and expect them to be accountable to each other. So I don't interfere a lot with that. I spend my time with each player every day, and that's how I choose to do it.
So, as you said, you wanted to go back, and let me say from personal experience, when I've had a break in things, your wife will get sick of having you around. Mm-hmm. So, she'll want you out of the house. Yeah, she'll want you out of the house at some point. What do you see as your immediate future? If the opportunity arises, is it right back to managing, or is it taking a breath for a moment before that? Where do you see it going?
Well, they're really, I'm probably going to broadcast for a year and see where that takes me and see where it takes our lives. And see maybe what other opportunities are out there after broadcasting for a year. But there's nothing set in stone yet. It's still pretty early, in the off season for me, and I have some meetings that I'm going to meet with some, about some broadcasting opportunities, and we'll just go from there.
Mike and Mike, Joe Girardi is with us. I want to go back quickly to the previous thought, because what I was struck by when your team came from 2-0 down to beat Cleveland, and sorry, Golic. Golic is from Cleveland, so he didn't love that, but I certainly did. After that night, that Friday night in Cleveland, which was an incredibly tough loss, an incredibly tough game in which you fully acknowledged you had made a big mistake, it felt to me, from the outside watching, as though those players wanted to pick you up. Of course, they wanted to win for themselves. They wanted to win a playoff series. They wanted to keep going and try and win a championship. But I did feel that there was legitimate feeling. Todd Frazier voiced it and some others did, that they wanted to pick you up because you would acknowledge that you had made a mistake and it would have haunted you. Everyone knew it would have bothered you so much of it ended there. Did you feel that way? And how did that, in your mind, how does that coincide with the notion that you didn't have a close enough relationship with the players?
Yeah, I'm not so sure how that coincides, but I spoke to the players, before Game 3 and said, look, I said I messed up. I probably should have, replayed that. But the one thing that you guys have always done is battle back, and you've always fought for each other. So, my point was, hey, we're still not out of this. We're very talented. Let's win one game tonight and see where we go from here. And that's exactly what they did, and we ended up winning the series. And I appreciated all the comments. I really did, and how I felt like during the course of the year, we all had each other's back. That's the culture that we wanted to create. So I was very appreciative for that.
Listen, we all understand as an athlete, no matter the sport, manager, coach, whatever, player, you expect to win every game. Every time you go out there, you expect to make the postseason. For this team this year, when it started going for you, when the season started, everybody thought this team would be a year or so away. What did you feel? Did you expect this from this young group?
When we left spring training, I was asked about that, and I said, you know what? This team's going to be good. And I wasn't quite sure what month it was going to take place, but what I saw was a club that had the opportunity to score a lot of runs, and that's something that we had lacked the last couple of years, and it could be a very explosive offense. Now, I didn't expect not to have Greg Bird for most of the season, but other guys picked him up and did a really good job. Chase Headley filled in great at first base for him, but I felt like we had a chance to score a lot of runs, and with the bullpen we had, I knew that we were going to win a lot of games. I wasn't exactly sure how many, but I thought we would be in the thick of it the whole year, and that's what happened.
And then this kid, Aaron Judge, who obviously he won the Rookie of the Year unanimously the other day, about as easily as you could ever have chosen anybody. I just wonder, as you've been around the sport a long time as a player and then as a manager, you see a kid like him who obviously has so much talent and so much power and strikes out as much as he does. It feels to me like there was a time, like when you were young, that would have been a significant concern. Are we at a place in baseball now where a guy striking out to the degree that he does just really isn't a concern if he brings you the power that he does?
I think it's a concern, but I think, though, they're looking at the bottom line, the production that you're getting from an Aaron Judge. His on-base percentage is tremendous. He drives in over 100 runs. He scores over 100 runs. So, in a sense, what more are you going to ask for? Yeah, you could ask for him to hit 330, but would he necessarily do the other things? So I think it all really comes down to run production, and he's a run producer. And wow, what a great kid this guy is. I mean, this is a natural-born leader, a kid that when I look at him, I almost feel like he's everybody's big brother. Now, he is big, but it's almost like he has taken on that role and has everybody's back, and he's a special talent, and I don't think, we get a chance to watch it every day, and like the home run contest did not surprise me at all because I would watch it every day, just his work. but how athletic he is at 6'7", 275 pounds is absolutely amazing to me.
Yeah, it is, and he's an incredible athlete. Well, Joe, with some of your free time, I'm wondering, a baseball player finally jumped into this in David Ross, and you obviously have a huge name and celebrity here. How about Dancing with the Stars?
Dancing with the Stars, Joe, what do you think?
How about that?
Oh, I would be off very quickly. I wouldn't make it probably through the first week. They would get rid of me. So I give David a lot of credit for that. They say some people have 2 left feet. I don't think I have any feet.
Well, he was a catcher. You were a catcher.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe you could just travel around and watch Northwestern win a bunch of games this year.
Boy.
Anyway, Joe, we very much enjoyed this relationship over the years. We've had fun. I know that whatever your next step is, hopefully, in broadcasting this particular year, hopefully I know there'll be room for you with Mike's new show, and there'll be room with you with mine as well. So good luck with everything. Thank you for everything, and have a terrific winter.
Well, I just want to thank you, too, for 18 great years and always be a positive influence in sports. And I know your next ventures will be great, and I'm proud to be on your show. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Joe Girardi, former manager of the Yankees. And, again, Personally, I've said it before, I was disappointed that he wasn't asked to come back, but it wasn't my decision to
make. And as you heard him say, he would have liked to. But these guys, they have that ability. We've seen it, obviously, go into broadcasting, catch your breath a little bit, and then jump back into the grind at some point again. Sometimes you wonder why, but, they just love it.
He feels like a lifer.
Yes, I agree.
He feels like a guy's going back to it.
You. Yes. Hey, everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home, wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home. Safe home.
All right, a pleasure to bring in Paul Finebaum every week here with us from the Paul Finebaum Show. And this week, Paul, you and Golic have 2 things in common. One of them is obviously your appearance. You guys look so alike. Sometimes I confuse you one for the other. And the other is Paul Wood on Sunday.
Oh.
Golic's got it on today.
And, Paul, your dancing was just horrific.
It was.
Yeah.
Why be good at something, Mike? It serves me right. The moment I jump on the Brian Kelly train, it crashes and derails, and I end up being made a fool out of. But that's okay. I'm not mad at Brian Kelly. I'm done with him. But it was fun. We were up there, and I asked somebody about 7 o'clock, is there one around? And Jonathan Vilma had one, so we waited till he could wake up, and we got it. And I don't know why I started dancing, Greeny. I have no earthly idea. I went into like my bar mitzvah party mode and literally went crazy.
Booger actually got up and was going to walk off the set. It was actually pretty fun. And not shocking that Vilma, a guy from the U, happened to have a turnover chain hanging around. So that game, certainly Miami, tip your cap to them, and we'll talk them. But we may get, if they can finish this off in Auburn, the first 2-loss team in the Final Four, what they did to Georgia, Paul, and that game coming up after they both have their semi-bye this week, Alabama and Auburn, before the Iron Bowl, and how well they played, especially at home. Man, you got to think long and hard about how that game's going to go in a couple of weeks.
You do. We did our show down there Friday, and you could feel it. I've been to Auburn 1,000 times for big games, and listen, everybody thinks they have the magic potion, but Auburn really does. That place, the crowd had a lot to do with it, and once Georgia started self-destructing, they made so many mistakes. Auburn just went on a roll for that 23-point win, which, by the way, was really a little bit more like 30. Georgia got a cheap touchdown at the end, and that's one reason Georgia got knocked down in the polls. People want to say that they made mistakes and they're really better, but on the biggest stage since Notre Dame, they failed miserably. Now, again, they can work their way back in, as everybody has been saying ad nauseum. They deal with Kentucky and at Georgia Tech next week, which is a game they've lost 2 out of the last 3 years, I believe. So they will get back to the championship game. They're already assigned to that. Now, will they play Auburn or Alabama? Mike, I've covered a million Auburn-Alabama games. It usually goes according to plan, but this is the first time Alabama has been in this game in a long time where some of their own fans are doubting the ability for the Crimson Tide to win. I'm sure when you have Saban tomorrow, he'll make a strong case for why Auburn should be favored, but Alabama will be favored.
It's a fascinating scenario down there. What Georgia lost in that game was the ability to lose the SEC championship game and be in the discussion. Auburn doesn't have that ability with their 2 losses. Does Bama? If Bama beats Auburn and loses to Georgia, does the SEC get 2 teams in?
Possibly. I mean, I do think there is a scenario. You need to move Washington out of the way, and quite frankly, with Michigan and Ohio State left, I don't think that's going to be a big deal. So then you really get into a question of, is Miami as a one-loss team a possibility? I think they are. And is the second team in the SEC? Alabama is in pretty good shape, though. And I think Alabama needs to get to the championship game. And I think they can get in, but because if you look at it, Clemson's the number 2 team in the country with a loss on the road to Syracuse. You're going to tell me that's a better loss than losing to a top 5, top 6 Georgia team? Not a chance of that.
As far as I know, when the first rankings were going to come out, we were all talking about Wisconsin, and man, they could be undefeated and left out of this thing. Now we're 3 rankings in. They're sitting at number 5, still undefeated, take on a ranked Michigan team, and could take on a ranked Ohio State team in the Big Ten championship. What do you say now if they run the table and are 13-0? Are they in the Final Four?
I believe they are. It's hard, but again, they will pick up all the data points, the famous 13th data point at the end, which could get them in. But if you look at it now, something's got to give. And Miami with a loss or Alabama with a loss, it would be helpful if Oklahoma got out of the way. But I would say they're pretty close to being in, even though a week ago I was saying the antithesis.
Is there anything to be said for USC? It was Reese Davis who brought this up last night, and your friend and ours, Booger McFarland, just tweeted a couple of minutes ago a scenario where Clemson wins out, Bama wins out, and Oklahoma wins out. Who becomes the 4th team at that point? Is it Ohio State? Is it USC? Is it a one-loss Miami? I think that's an interesting question.
Yeah, it is. The Ohio State push, I don't really get. I mean, they dropped a game by 31. I mean, you have to pay for your losses, especially that badly. So I wouldn't take them too seriously now. As soon as I say that, Southern Cal, as you know, Golic just got destroyed at Notre Dame. That's probably a better loss than what Ohio State suffered. So I would probably give SC a razor-thin edge over Ohio State. But in the end, I think I think you go back then to the ACC or the SEC number 2 team.
And I asked Herbie this earlier. For a team like Central Florida, and for those fans of the non-Power 5 teams that are all asking, when do we get to play with the big boys? When do we get to see if we belong with those guys? Is there an answer to that?
No. And I heard what he said, and it's you have to figure out a way to play someone really important. And again, when you're UCF, nobody really wants to play you anymore. So I don't think they have any path. Boise came the closest because they played a legitimate schedule. They played Virginia Tech, they played Georgia. But as much as I hate to say it, because you just hate to be dismissive of a great program and a great coach who probably won't be there much longer, I don't think they have any right to be in.
Oh, and we have not talked to you since the firing of Butch Jones, which, of course, was a foregone conclusion, but we didn't know it would necessarily happen when it did. So I always think there's significance not only to things that happen, but when they happen. So how did you read the timing of this, and what is your sense of who they would, in their dream scenario, what does their list look like?
Yeah, well, they had to get rid of him after losing badly to Missouri. There was no choice. Having been in Knoxville a couple of times this fall, if you took a vote of the people, it would be John Gruden. I heard what John said today. I was actually expecting him to say no, to give a Sherman-esque response. But I think, and you know Gruden better than I do, but my sense is that he's looking more toward the NFL than he is toward college football, although there are connections to Knoxville. But right now, it looks like Dan Mullen would be pretty high on the list. He's a safe choice. And I don't mean that they're settling, because Dan is a very good coach, but he would make the transition better than most. The Chip Kelly rumors, I still don't completely buy, although people in Florida are talking about him quite a bit. Scott Frost's name comes up, and then where else do you go? Justin Fuente. I mean, Mike Gundy's name has been linked to that job. But I think Dan Mullen right now is probably in a really good spot if he wants to leave Mississippi State.
All right, Paul. Well, listen, we've so enjoyed this season, last season, and you're one of our more recent friends, but a really good one. It's been a lot of fun doing this every single week, and I know we both look forward to continuing to do it on down the road. Thanks, Paul.
Greeny, I want to say this. Dave Roberts called me a year and a half ago and asked me to be a regular on this show, and it was truly one of the biggest shocks and honors and thrills of my career to be a part of the greatest duo in radio history. So, guys, all the best. Greeny, I know you're going to be great, but I'm going to miss being on with both of you.
Thanks, Paul.
You. Thank you very much, Paul. Always appreciate it. That's Paul Finebaum with us. Brought to you by Goodyear Tires, as hardworking as college football's most blimp-worthy athletes. Goodyear, official sponsor of the college football playoff.
I'll have him back on in 2 weeks. Look forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's ooh, here we go. We got a little news here. Going into a break, Field Yates just tweeted, the Bills announced Nathan Peterman will start at quarterback this Sunday. Tyrod Taylor to the bench. Back-to-back bad losses for the Bills.
Wow.
Is he hurt that I don't know of? Did Taylor get hurt in that game this week?
Well, the way that was said,
this
back
just
to the
pure
bench,
performance?
Sitting at 5-4 now.
Yeah, they were 5-2. They were everybody's darling. Then they got blown out by the Jets, and then they got annihilated by New Orleans.
By the way, winning record and negative net points on that. That's interesting. Because remember, we weren't sure he was going to be at Buffalo in the beginning, with a contract and all that, and where he was going to end up.
And of course, Tyrod Taylor is the reason they allowed 6 rushing touchdowns to the Saints this week.
That's exactly right.
I mean, come on.
Of course, it was his fault. He wasn't.
You got to change the quarterback.
He wasn't doing enough on the sideline for that.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Mike and Mike, I was so sad to hear that you guys are not continuing your show, your wonderful show. You have given people so much joy. The laughter on your show, every time I participated, all we did was laugh and have fun. People will miss you. I will miss you both. May you have a great future wherever you go from now on. God bless you both, and God bless America.
What a guy that is.
Gary Player.
He's something else.
Boy, send me that one. That's one for the archives. That is the legendary Gary Player, who has traveled more miles than any other golfer in history and has been about as good an ambassador of the game as there's ever been, and would annihilate Booger McFarland.
He made us plank. His birthday and his in-shapeness made us plank on the show not long ago.
His commitment to that, I'll never forget the first time we had him on. He's in our studio, and I'm in awe of the great Gary Player. And I was eating, I used to remember, I'd bring those pomegranate arrows in here. I would eat like a pomegranate.
Yes, you would.
And I was eating that in a break, and he said to me, I'm glad to see you eating that. I can't do his voice. But, the obesity epidemic is the biggest problem. And he started going, and that was really when I first started to learn about his extraordinary passion for that subject. But he is a genuinely great man. I love you, Gary Player. Thank you.
Good thing there were no donuts in the studio that day.
Remember the way he said, I have it here, the way he says Booger's name. Booga.
Mike, reminding you, if you missed any of the show, including Herbie in Hour 2, you can listen to all 4 hours of Mike and Mike on demand in the ESPN app, and now you can subscribe to our Best Of podcast, all available in the Listen tab of the ESPN app.
All right, I've got the coach speak for you from Sean McDermott on the benching of Tyrod Taylor in place of rookie Nathan Peterman.
Okay.
Here it is from Mike Rodak's Twitter feed. He covers the Bills for us. Quote, really, it's about becoming a better team. Every position is evaluated. Oop, it just skipped. Hold on. Every position is evaluated, and that's the direction I decided to go, McDermott said Wednesday, saying he made the decision by himself and informed general manager Brandon Beane.
Interesting. Now,
he said nothing. He basically said absolutely nothing.
No. They got smoked against the Saints. Saints ran for 6 touchdowns on them. They only scored 10 points. He only threw the ball 18 times in that game for 56 yards. Overall, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's not a guy that's ever going to throw for 35, 40 touchdowns and 4,500, 5,000 yards. That's not him. But he can help beat you with his legs as well. Peterman, listen, I covered him in the bowl game. My son and I did the Pinstripe Bowl when Pitt played Northwestern, so I obviously saw him live there and watched a bunch of tape getting ready for that game. He's that guy that'll stand in the pocket and whip it around. Actually got knocked out of that game against Northwestern, so certainly a different type of quarterback than Tyrod Taylor. Surprising to me, though. I am surprised at that move, that this team is 5-4. Sitting in that division right now, certainly fighting very well for a wild card spot, no doubt about that. So I'm a little surprised that you're benching for, and not even like a vet who's had years of experience, even as a backup to come in, but a rookie to come in. Obviously, they think highly of him, what they've seen of him. He came in relief in that Saints game, but you've seen him more in practice and preseason. But I'm a little surprised at this move. I really am.
Yeah. I mean, there's another quote I just saw flash by our screen attributed to him saying this is not an indictment of Tyrod. Then what is it?
And what is it?
You're benching him for Nathan Peterman.
You're looking for a spark by going to a rookie quarterback?
And I'm not knocking Peterman. And the name Peterman, by the way, will always make me think of Seinfeld.
Exactly right.
But that's neither here nor there.
The catalog.
He's a quarterback, and they obviously like what they see in him, and they think he's going to be good. But it most certainly is an indictment of Tyrod Taylor.
Without question it is. And we're not there. Obviously, he has his reasons for doing it. Maybe there's more, and he doesn't want to make them public, which is certainly his right to do. But I think that's somewhat of a questionable move.
They were everybody's darling 2 weeks ago.
To me, it is only a matter of time before Tyrod Taylor is back out there. Only a matter of time. To me, there is no shot, in my opinion, that Peterman is the quarterback the rest of the way. I just do not see that happening.
Because you think he won't succeed?
I just don't think he's just a rookie quarterback who's jumping in halfway through a season. I mean, he hasn't even gotten his feet wet yet. And this is a team that's in the hunt for a wild card right now at 5-4. So I'm a little surprised, yes, at this. And quite honestly, if he struggles, they should pull him because you're fighting for something here. And Tyrod Taylor, while you may not say I can throw the game on his shoulders and he can win it for us, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's not turning the ball over an awful lot. He's not going to go down as the greatest quarterback in the league, but I am not going to lie. I'm amazed at this. And, yes, I will stand by the fact that Peterman, barring injury, if this has anything to do with an injury we don't know about, which it doesn't seem at this point, that we would see Taylor back on the field.
No, I mean, they're not attributing it to injury. They are pointedly not doing so.
Yeah.
This week, as mentioned, they're at the Chargers, then they're at Kansas City, then they're home New England.
See if we find out more about this. Again,
tough stretch.
Field Yates just tweeted this a little bit ago, so let's see if
he announced it. I mean, the coach announced
it. I'm with you.
And his quotes are definitive. He's not saying Tyrod is hurt. He's not.
I'm surprised at this.
This is a performance-based change. And I am surprised, too, at a team that has had back-to-back bad games, but this past week their defense got obliterated.
They absolutely did.
And their offense didn't do much, but their defense
over.
That was their problem was They just got annihilated on the ground. So we'll see. They go to the Chargers. That's a place that has no home field advantage, but they're a much better team than their record. Then at Kansas City, they're really good. Then home New England. So that's not an easy stretch to put the rookie out there for. So interesting decision made there.
Yep.
Okay, more fun to be had tomorrow. I'm sure a lot more of these fun goodbyes. Great guest list tomorrow. Saban among the many guests and a whole lot more. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you back in Better Than Ever. Same time, same place. Mike and Mike.
Chain's coming off. Turnover chain is coming off.